Hi, welcome to the testing world. In this session, we are going to cover JUnit. JUnit is a unit testing tool for Java program. With the help of the JUnit, we can execute the classes which does not have any main method. So, JUnit is a unit testing tool or framework to perform unit testing in Java. With the help of the JUnit, we can execute the classes, which we can execute the code without using main method. We have the two different versions available for the JUnit. This is JUnit 3 and JUnit 4. Because JUnit 4 is the latest version, so we are going to cover JUnit 4. But in the later part of the session, we will see some differences between the JUnit 3 and JUnit 4. JUnit will depend on some annotations. What is the annotation we'll cover later, but we have the multiple annotations like the test, before class, after class, and ignore. So moving to my Eclipse, and I'll start some coding. I'm going to the Eclipse, I'm creating a project. So moving to a file, new Java project. Giving the name of the project is JUnit working. Now I'm creating a package, testing. I'm creating a class A. So now I have a let's say project, then package, and then class. Here I'm creating some methods. So public void display is my method. I'm writing some code in that. So system.out.println, and this is display method. Now in my project we have a package, we have a class, but we don't have any main method. I want to execute this class, so I'm running it as a Java application. It's showing that you should have main class to execute this. Now the role of JUnit started. We want to execute our test case, our code without using the main method. So here I'm going to use JUnit 4. JUnit 4, to execute it by the JUnit 4, we are using some annotations. So first annotation is a mandatory annotation that we are going to use. It's test. So I mentioned test in the top of the particular method. Here it's showing error. Click on the error. It says like libraries of the JUnit are not in the build path. So I selected the first suggestion and the library will be added. Now I have a class with the method, but we are not using the main method to execute it. We are using test annotation. I'm running it by the JUnit because in my system I have configured the JUnit. I have the Eclipse and the Android as well, so I'm selecting the Eclipse. But in your system, if you are not getting this window, means you do not have the Android setup on your Eclipse. So I'm selecting this. It executed the particular method. If you want to see the result, so I'm going to the console, and here you can see the test method is executed. So we have seen like we can execute any of the method without even main method, without calling from the main method, by using annotation. This annotation belongs to JUnit. So JUnit does not understand my method. JUnit only understands this annotation. Moving to the next part, like right now I have only one method. I'm creating one more method, public void testing, and writing something on this method like this is before annotation. One more annotation that we can use is the before. I'm using the before annotation, and I'm creating one more method. So after, so public void, I mentioned the name of the method is AF, and this is after annotation, and I mentioned the annotation is after. So now it doesn't matter the order in which different methods are placed. The thing is that when we are executing first a search for the test annotation, do we have any method with the test annotation? Yes. After that it search, do we have any method with the before annotation? If yes, then before will execute first, then test at the end after. So now we can see, yeah, now we are going to see it's going to execute this is before annotation, then this is display method, or to make it more understandable, I mentioned this is test annotation and this is after annotation. I'm executing it by the JUnit, and now we can check this is the before annotation, this is test annotation, this is after annotation. So means first before will be executed, then test, and at the end after. Here the order of searching is it first search for the test annotation. If we don't have the test annotation, it's not going to work in a JUnit. So I'm going to, I have removed the test annotation, I have executed it again, and it is showing some error. Like we cannot execute until we have the test annotation. I'm going to add the test annotation again, and now I'm executing it. So we'll check it. It asks for the JUnit or testng because I have the testng in my system. If you don't have the testng, it will not ask for a particular option. Selected Eclipse, and again in the same order it executed. So here we got the understanding like JUnit 4 is working on the annotations. JUnit does not understand my method. It understands only annotation. So if annotation is placed over the method, it will execute a particular method. The searching order is test. If test is there, then before, then after. But execution order is first it will execute the before, then test, and then after. In Selenium point of view, I'll tell you like whatever the test case code that we want to write, we will place that code in this test annotation. Whatever the code that we want to execute before the test case, we will place the test case in before annotation. And whatever the code we want to execute after the test case, we'll place in the after annotation. So like test case code will be here, browser starting code will be here, and browser closing code will be here. So we can distribute the code in the later part of the on the session. We are going to cover some Selenium part as well. So moving to the next part, here we have gone through the three annotations. I'm creating one more method. Method can be created anywhere inside the class. I have created one more method as the test2, and system.out.println, this is test2. So now we have two methods, this is test1 and test2, comes to the display, and then test2. Now we have the test2 test annotation. So before running any test, it will go to the before annotations. So first before will execute, then test1 will execute, and then after executed. Again it search, do we have any more test annotation? Yes, we have one more method with the test annotation. Again it will execute before, then test2, and then after. Means the execution order will be, it always search for the test annotation. Before and after each test, it will execute before annotation and after annotation. So means if we have the multiple tests, before and after will be executed multiple times. I'm running this code, and here we can check like this is going to be before annotation, then test, and then after, before, test, after. So my multiple test cases executed, and we can see that before and after each test, my before and after annotations are executing. Now we got the understanding like in one Java file we can have multiple test cases, like we can have multiple test annotation. Before and after will execute each and after test case, means before and after will execute each and after test annotation. Next point that we are going to cover, it's like I have created three test cases over here in single Java file. I have given the different name, test is 3. But For today's execution, I want to execute only first and third test case. I don't want to execute the second test case in today's execution. So what I'm going to do, we have one more annotation below the test. We can mention ignore. Ignore annotation means the particular test case will be ignored in a current execution. So I'm executing it, and here we can check it is executing. It is ignoring the test 2, test 3, and test 3, and the display is executed. And I'm coming to this, saving it again, and test 3 and test 1 executed. So here we can check like only test 3 and display method executed. In the result we can check test 3 and test 1 is executed. So if you want to ignore or skip particular test case, we can use fourth annotation, which is ignore. So now we have covered 4 annotations. I'm moving to the next section. Here I'm creating one more method. We are going to create 2 more methods. Public void b class. So annotation name is before class. This is before class. Creating one more annotation, public void a class. So system.out.println, this is a class. Sorry, I mentioned over here before class, and here I'll mention after class. So now we have the 2 more methods, the before class and the after class. When we are creating method in before class and after class, so we need to use the static keyword in that. Use of the static keyword we will cover in the next section, but we can, as of now we can understand only like in a case of the before class and after class method, the static is mandatory. So now I'm executing. What is the role of the before class and after class annotation? Whenever we have the before class, it will execute always at the first, and it will execute only one time. So whenever we have the before class annotation, it will execute first, then the same order that we are using, like before, test, after. If we have more tests, then again before, again test, again after, and at the end, after class will be executed. So now in my case, I'm skipping this. We have only 2 tests, that is this and this one. So we have only 2 tests. So at the start, before class will be executed, then before, test after, second time before, second test, and after, and at the end, after class. Executing it, and here we can see before class, before, test, after, before, test, after, and after class. Here we can see in after class we mentioned the a class. I can mention after class, and you can check it again. So before class, before annotation, test, after annotation, before, test, after, and at the end, after class. So now we have covered 6 annotations, 6 majorly used annotations in the JUnit, and we got the understanding like if we have any code which you want to execute before every test case, like I want to start the browser before the every test case, then I'll place that code in before annotation. But if you want to execute any code only one time at the start, that I will place that code in before class. I can give you example of the before class, like uh, I want to use the database in my test cases. So while going for the database, we must create the database connection. So if you want to create the database connection, then you can go to the before class. So it will execute only once at the start. So database connection will be created. We can use in our test annotation, and at the end, once everything is done in after class, we can break this connection. So the code that we want to execute only one time, we can place in the before class. It will execute always first, after class and will be executed always end. So these are the all the annotations that we can use in I'll say in JUnit. And these are the annotation like test, before class, after class, and ignore. Now moving to the next topic, that's what's the difference between the JUnit 3 and JUnit 4. Even while working with the Selenium, we just require to go for Selenium 4. But just to get understanding, I'm giving some difference. What is the difference between the JUnit 3 and JUnit 4? So I'm using Selenium IDE uh, for some understanding. I open the Facebook. I'm opening this, Selenium IDE, doing some recording. Incorrect values, I'll say junk values that I have entered. So some recording is done. Stopping the recording, I'm converting this code into JUnit 4. I'm copying this code and taking it to the Eclipse, uh, just for uh, for the execution. So I'm creating a new class tc002. I want to execute the second test case. I want to create the second test case. I have pasted the code which is copied from there. Minor changes that we need to do is to copy the name of the class that we have created over here and replace with the class name which we got from IDE. Remove this blank class, that is the second. Now we have a package that we have created over here. We have a package which is coming from IDE. So remove the package which is coming from the IDE. I'm removing the blank space and the libraries that we are required. So I'm adding the Selenium standalone jar for the libraries. Going to the desktop, I have the jar placed on the desktop. This is the folder and I've added the jar. So now all the errors are removed. So we must understand the code that Selenium is writing in the JUnit 4 format. So we can see whatever we have recorded steps, or I'll say the test case, displayed under the test annotation. In a before annotation, the code is written to start the browser. So because to execute my test case, my browser should be started. So here the browser starting code which is placed in the before annotation. After the test case execution, there is a after annotation. To stop the Selenium's browser, so to stop the browser, the code is selenium.stop. So we can see like browser will be started in the before, which will be executed at the first, then my test case will execute at the end, after will execute. Here is the JUnit 4 formatted code. I want to show you what is the format or what's the code in the format of JUnit 3. So we have the option over here. I'm going to the format JUnit 3. So we are going through a few differences. We can see few differences like that. Here we can see we do not have any annotation. So JUnit 4 is supporting annotations, JUnit 3 does not support annotation. Other difference is that the work done by the by the test annotation in JUnit 4, for the same work we are using this method. But if you want to give the name of the method is hello, we cannot give the name hello. In JUnit 3, we always test method must be always started by the test. So if you want to write the method hello, we cannot do it. We have to write test hello. So that is mandatory for us. Whatever the task which is done by the before annotation, we have to create a method setup exactly the name should be same. It is done by the after, we must have a tear down method. So if we want to create after method, after annotation parallel to the after annotation, so we must have tear down method. So the task which is done by the after annotation here, tear down, tear down method. For before class annotation, we do not have any option. For the after class annotation, again we do not have any option. So we have seen major differences between the JUnit 3 and JUnit 4. So that's all I have for this session. Here we have covered what is JUnit, then what is the different version of the JUnit, then annotations, difference between the Junit 3 and Junit 4. So that's all. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to know more about us, you can go to thetestingworld.com. If you want to get training support, you can WhatsApp us, call us +91. It's 8743913121. If you want to check our students' feedback on the Facebook, you can follow this link. Thanks.